In the quiet hum of the Manhattan morning, 24 hours before my wedding, a text arrived that should have been a warm welcome. "My mom is inviting you to dinner today," Liam wrote. I assumed it was the standard rehearsal dinner, a final, elegant formality before the I-do's. But as I sat in that overpriced restaurant in downtown Manhattan, watching the crystal chandeliers cast flickering shadows over heavy white linens, the atmosphere felt less like a celebration and more like a high-stakes interrogation. Nervous Sylvia, my future mother-in-law, sat across from us, her silver hair styled into an immaculate, expensive blowout that looked as rigid as her personality. She swirled a glass of vintage red wine, eyeing my simple silk dress with a disgust she barely bothered to conceal. Sighs. For a year, she had paraded around like she owned the city, making sure I knew that as an orphan with no pedigree, I was a charity project for her son. "It's just so noble of Liam to look past social class," Sylvia announced, her voice carrying easily over the clinking of silver forks. "Most men in his position would require a wife with a proper family background, but Liam has such a charitable heart. It's almost like a rescue mission for him." I kept my face perfectly blank and took a slow sip of water. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I looked at Liam. Instead of defending me, he chuckled and patted my hand condescendingly. "Come on, Mom. Play nice," he said, his tone entirely amused. He loved it. He loved playing the wealthy savior to my poor, unfortunate soul. What they didn't know was that my cybersecurity firm had just been valued at $45 million. A fact I kept deliberately quiet, letting them believe I was just a mid-level tech support manager. I had even quietly paid for this entire dinner, because Liam claimed his liquid funds were temporarily tied up. As the dessert plates were cleared, Sylvia leaned closer to Liam and switched abruptly to Italian, assuming the uneducated orphan girl only knew English. "She looks so incredibly cheap," Sylvia whispered in Italian, a smirk playing on her lips. "But her signature tomorrow will save our house in the Hamptons. Are you absolutely sure your lawyer slipped the cross-ownership clause into the prenup?" Liam sipped his dark espresso and replied in flawless Italian, "Do not worry, Mom. A full 50% of her tech company will be mine the second we exchange rings. She is far too stupid to have her own lawyer read the final draft." My blood turned to ice, but my heart beat with a terrifying steady rhythm. The man I was supposed to marry in less than 12 hours had just admitted to forging a legal document to steal half of my life's work. They needed my hidden wealth to save their fake empire. I carefully placed my napkin on the table, walked around to Sylvia, and grabbed her hand. I squeezed her fingers until her diamond rings dug painfully into her bone. "The pasta tonight was excellent, Sylvia," I whispered in perfect, unaccented Italian. "Enjoy it, because this will be the very last expensive meal you will not have to wash dishes to pay for." The silence that followed was absolute. Sylvia's face drained of color. Liam dropped his espresso cup, the dark liquid staining the pristine white tablecloth. I didn't say another word. I turned my back and walked out of the restaurant, my heels clicking sharply against the polished marble floor. Step into the night air with me. If you've ever had to outsmart a toxic family who thought they could underestimate your worth, hit like and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to hear how I turned my wedding day into a crime scene for their egos. The Midnight Protocol. As my car pulled away from the curb, I opened my encrypted laptop. My fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing security firewalls and accessing my company servers. If Liam wanted to play a game of corporate espionage and financial ruin, he had challenged the wrong woman. My phone buzzed. It was Liam. I answered, letting my voice tremble just a little bit, perfectly mimicking an overwhelmed bride. "Liam," I whispered. "Babe, what was that?" he demanded, his voice thick with fake concern. "You completely overreacted. Your Italian is rusty, Nora. Mom was saying you look pretty. You embarrassed her." "I'm so sorry," I murmured, feeding his massive ego. "The wedding stress. I must have misheard. Please tell Sylvia I apologize." "Don't worry about it," he replied, his arrogant confidence restored. "Just get your beauty sleep. Tomorrow is going to be the best day of our lives." I'll see you at the altar, I said sweetly. The second the call ended, the act was over. I initiated a secure proxy chain, routing my connection through servers in Switzerland. Within seconds, I was inside Liam's digital life. I didn't care about petty infidelity. I was hunting for the financial guillotine he and his mother were preparing to drop on my neck. I found a hidden folder labeled Gym Routines. Inside was a file. Legal drafts, modified 48 hours ago. I split my screen. On the left, the original prenup my attorney drafted. On the right, the version Liam submitted. My specialized algorithm highlighted the discrepancies in glaring red. Page 15, the signature page, had been entirely rewritten. The new clause stated Liam was a vital co-founder and mandated an irrevocable 50% equity stake in my enterprise upon marriage. He had forged my signature. But why the urgency? I pivoted to his personal banking. The results were staggering. Liam's primary account had a balance of $3,800. For a man who casually dropped $2,000 on a suit, this made no sense. I dug deeper. He had been unceremoniously fired from his investment bank 6 months ago for insider trading. Since then, he had developed a gambling addiction in the volatile options market. He was buried under a $3.2 million debt to an aggressive hedge fund called Apex Capital. And the collateral he had used? The Hamptons estate. Foreclosure was scheduled for Monday morning. I leaned back, a cold, righteous fury settling into my bones. They were a pack of well-dressed vultures, and I was their chosen prey. The poison pill. At 2 a.m., I called my lead attorney, Gregory. We're initiating the midnight poison pill protocol, I told him. The poison pill was an extreme corporate defense strategy. It involved liquidating my personal assets and transferring my entire equity into an impenetrable offshore blind trust. By 8 a.m., my net worth on paper would be zero. If Liam tried to enforce his fraudulent contract, he would be claiming 50% of nothing. But Nora, I added, my eyes fixed on the city lights, I want to buy Liam's debt. Contact Apex Capital the second the market opens. Offer to buy the lien on Sylvia's house. I want to be his sole legally binding creditor by the time I walk down that aisle. Consider it done, Gregory whispered. Happy wedding day. The altar of truth. The wedding morning was a blur of white silk and hidden daggers. Sylvia and Diana, Liam's sister, marched into my bridal suite, dripping with fake sympathy. Liam's financial advisors sent over a banking proxy, Sylvia said, dropping an envelope on my vanity. Sign it now to streamline the accounts. It was a power of attorney document to give them my cash the second the wedding ended. I'll sign it at the altar, I replied with a naive smile. For the photographer. At 2 p.m., the cathedral door swung open. I walked down the aisle alone. As I reached the front, the priest began the liturgy. Liam stood there, looking like the picture-perfect groom, but he was staring at me like a $45 million lottery ticket. Then came the moment. If anyone can show just cause why these two may not lawfully be joined together, let them speak now. I let my bouquet fall. It hit the marble floor with a sharp thud. I stepped forward and took the microphone from the startled priest. I object, I announced. My voice boomed through the speakers. Mostly because my groom has an appointment with the FBI this afternoon, and I refuse to spend my honeymoon visiting a federal penitentiary. The room exploded. Liam lunged for the mic, but I stepped back, clicking a remote in my hand. Behind the altar, the massive digital screen hummed to life. The forged documents appeared in high definition. The emails, the debt notices, the foreclosure. Check the corporate registry, Liam, I said, looking him dead in the eye. As of 6 a.m., my company no longer exists under my name. I executed a poison pill. My net worth is zero. You risked a felony to steal half of nothing. Liam collapsed to his knees. His mother shrieked like a wounded animal as security intercepted her. And Liam? I leaned in. I bought your debt. I own the lien on your mother's house. I own your car. I own your future. You didn't want a wife, you wanted a bailout. Well, Consider this your final audit. I turned my back on the wreckage. I tore off my veil, left it on the stone steps, and walked out into the New York sunshine. I wasn't a victim. I was free. Loneliness makes dangerous choices feel reasonable, but desire whispers louder than guilt. I chose neither. I chose power.